You are listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into Outside the Trenches here on KCSN. I'm joined by Nick Leckey. I am not BJ Kissel. You probably know that already. I'm not BJ Kissel. My name is Tucker Franklin, podcast producer here at KCSN. Here with Super Bowl champion Nick Leckey. Of course, we've got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Five Farms from Holiday Distillery. Wonderful product that they got. It's that time of the year where I start making coffee in my kitchen and I'm eyeballing the Five Farms. And I'm like, wait, it's 8 a.m. Probably shouldn't do that. But I'm eyeballing it every now and again. But I got the hot chocolate in there. Wonderful with hot chocolate. But Nick, how are you doing this week? It's great to catch up with you.
I'm good, Tucker. I'm good, man. Why is it okay to drink at 8 o'clock if you're tailgating, but it's not okay to drink 8 o'clock before a day, just a normal day? Why is that acceptable?
That's a great question, and probably something that we need a little bit more research on. I think that we need to send some research out on that topic. My buddies and I always had this rule in college. It's okay to drink when there's football on the TV. That was our theory. That we had that constructed theory. It's like anytime there's sports on, I think you could even stretch it to sports. Anytime there's sports on, it's okay to drink. So one day it was towards the end of the spring semester. The combine was on. So we got up when the combine started at 6 a.m. and we're like, you know what? Football's on the TV.
No, yes. It was practice. That was practice. That was training. Training was on TV.
I remember that one of the best days of I remember that thinking like football's on TV. Let's tailgate and watch some of the combine. That's how deep it goes. But
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's a true fan right there. Is watching the combine and getting into it. Were you taking notes and drinking or just drinking?
Oh yeah, I was taking notes. That was Orlando Brown's combine, by the way, and we woke up at 6 a.m. That's when he didn't have a very good combine. And that was part of my notes that he did not have a very good combine. I could tell that when I was drinking Busch Lights at 6 a.m. in the morning. I said,
this
guy's not doing very good.
Yeah, this guy doesn't look good in his shorts right now. Exactly.
Right. But no, I think we do need to crack open some Five. I probably will crack open some Five Farms. It's going to get cold here in the Kansas City metro area coming up here pretty quick. But
we need to because it definitely doesn't feel like a Chiefs victory. It feels like a Chiefs dodged a loss, So it's like it's a weird feeling, like you feel like they got exposed a little bit, maybe. As far as but give credit to Denver's secondary too. I mean, they're pretty solid and they jumped some routes and they made it difficult. But then you look at the flip side too, right, where they threw 3 straight interceptions and still won. Usually that's a death stroke.
Right. It's such a weird game to look at, Nick, and I want to get your thoughts on some things from this game. And it is when you talk about kind of the yin and the yang to it, right? There were some really bad things that happened in this game. Also some pretty good things that happened in this game too that kind of get overshadowed by those really bad things. The Chiefs went on a stretch, like 27-0. And they were rolling. The defense was scoring touchdowns. They were scoring whenever they wanted to. I mean, they had the 2 field goals early on in the game, but after that, Patrick Mahomes was throwing no-look Magic Johnson passes, and Jerick McKinnon's diving through end zones, and Trey Smith's killing people legally out here. And it's just like, man, this team can't be stopped. And then I think the Broncos rattle off 21 straight unanswered. So you start to look and you're like, oh, this game got a little bit tighter than we anticipated. So I'm curious, Nick, for you, as a former player, how hard is it, like, psychologically to keep your foot on the gas the whole time? You're up 27-0. Everything's going right. Like, you seem like any play you run's a touchdown play. How hard is it to be like, all right, I can probably throttle down a little bit here, especially this late in the season, kind of throttle down a little bit and maybe try to coast our way to a victory on this one?
I don't think it's not the throttle down, because usually when you throttle down, that's when you get hurt, right? If you're not staying active, then, that's when someone rolls up on your leg, or that's when, you kind of, maybe hurt your knee in open field type thing. So you definitely keep the foot on the gas pedal. What happens is you get a little bit cocky, right? Especially with Mahomes, right? He's up by that big. He just did the magic. I like that, by the way. I grew up watching the Lakers in the 80s Showtime. So he did the Magic Johnson, and he's feeling himself. So I think he just got a little undisciplined and just tried to force some reads They kind of baited him into some throws and, covering up Kelsey. So I think just, if anything, these near losses are good because it shows you that, hey man, even though this is a bad team, we're up, we still have we're still vulnerable. Like, I think that the coolest thing for us when I was in New Orleans was that we were 12-0, 13-0, and we lost our last 3 games. I mean, so it was like one of those things where, if you roll into playoffs too hot, sometimes you get, overconfident and you overlook teams. You think you're just going to ride the whole thing. And it's kind of good to have these sort of near misses, because it kind of shows you, hey, if we did this versus Buffalo, we'd get spanked.
Right. And I do think that you're obviously onto something there when it comes to those late losses. I'm trying to pull up the Chiefs' schedule real quick, because I think they had one in 2019 before they hit into the playoffs. They had one of those losses that was like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen here. I do think they rattled off a few in a row, but I mean,
and it's a last hurrah for Denver. And sure. Like I said, and I'll save this for my blind nil. But there's some stuff too with unless you want to do it now. You know what? I'm gonna do it now.
Okay, let's do it.
Here's my blind nil, because it kind of feeds into this. How do you take this Denver victory, or victory over Denver? Did you feel like it was a loss? Was it a win? Like, divisional game? How much weight should you put on this game?
Yeah, I've been kind of thinking about this a lot. I know that, I guess this really reflects on how your outlook on life is, right? A glass half empty, glass half full type of person. If I look at this to a December game against a divisional opponent where no one gets hurt and you still win the game, like, man, I don't know if it gets any better than that. If you're just looking at the surface level, like, that's what you want out of these games, especially as a final result. You're just like, wow, it seems like everything went right. But then when you start to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, you're like, all right, well, this defense allowed this Broncos offense to score a whole lot of points, and this Broncos offense doesn't usually score a whole lot of points. You get it even deeper, and you're like, okay, well, this Chiefs offense scored a whole lot of points against a Broncos defense that doesn't allow a whole lot of points. So there's a lot of things, like, too, when I was talking about at the beginning, like, kind of the yin and the yang about this game of, like, there was some bad stuff that happened, but there was also some good stuff that happened. I do think, like, a win's a win, especially this late in the season, trying to get down to it. It counts the same in the win column as all the other ones do, as much as the 49ers win counts in the win column as much as this one does. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I know BJ's kind of looking at it the same way. He's been kind of the leader of that chant, if you can say. But yeah, I think a win's a win.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Like I said too, I think just having some weaknesses exposed, having some judgments, not knowing or not being, Superman, I think is the best thing, and I think I'm hoping that the Chiefs will learn this lesson. And sort of, I mean, you have a top quarterback of all time with Mahomes. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and state that, because he's been consistent for years now. And it's still like they just can't, you think, okay, year 1, they're going to find out. Year 2, year 3, 4. They still haven't figured it out quite yet. And so it kind of like, I'm hoping that the Chiefs will sort of take the ball out of his hands, sort of run the ball more. I thought they did well the first couple of drives where they're just throwing quick routes. Because I think Mahomes gets in trouble when that pocket gets collapsed and he gets hit a couple times and then he gets skittish. So it's like, yeah. So I think there are ways to warm him up, even though he's a once in a generation player.
For sure. And I think that these games coming up against the Texans,
nobody's,
the Broncos, the Raiders, the Seahawks, who got throttled on, Thursday Night Football with the Brock Purdy Niners. I don't know what's happening there, but apparently something's happening with Brock Purdy. I think it's going to be really interesting and really vital for the Chiefs to kind of take what's given to them. I don't think they need to get too extravagant with their play calling or too cute. We know that they will, but I think they need to do some running the football. I don't ever heard of it. They need to do some of that. They need to be doing the quick passes, the short passes, zone beaters. I mean, I know that Brett Coleman talked a lot about how the Texans play a lot of cover 2, cover 3 on early downs. Could be an opportunity for the Chiefs to kind of Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce have a big day with him sitting down in zones. And that one interception, you mentioned this interception that he had. He just misread where Travis Kelce was going. It's like one of the things that Doesn't happen very often, but like number one, the linebacker Josie Jewell made a hell of a play on the ball, diving for it.
Yeah,
And Patrick Mahomes just put it on the wrong hip. Like that's all that it was. The linebacker
it's
made a
that
really good
close.
play, and Mahomes just put it on the wrong. If he puts it on the back hip, that's a reception. It goes for who knows how long Travis Kelsey busted for, but like it's just that close of what hip, and like these guys are athletes. They're all on scholarship too. They're all getting paid. So I mean, it's just the margin of error is just so small in the NFL now, and stuff and things like that.
It is. Even bad teams, like look at the Colts, how
Right.
they put a hurting on Kansas City, right? I mean, so it's like, you're evenly matched, but there's a few X factors here and there, and there's motivation for if you're Houston, right? You're playing at home, and you're playing for next year, right? You're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, right? So you're playing for next year for Houston. And I think anytime you play teams like this, it sounds simple, but you have to really beat them down early on and
Yeah.
sort of be like, get them out of it, get them to be like, okay, I'm just going to protect myself now. Now I'm going to throttle down to not get hurt. So it's a different throttle
Yeah.
down. It's not a throttle down. Here comes playoff. It's a throttle down. I don't want to get hurt for my vacation.
Making business decisions is what you're doing at that
Exactly.
point.
Vacation decisions is what you're doing. Exactly. I don't want to have to get any sort of surgery when I'm supposed to be in Mexico.
I know that Mike DeVito talked about this, and pertaining to the bye week, but I think it's kind of the same when it comes to like the off season when you're eliminated. Guys did not want to be hurt going into the bye week because
hell no.
if you were hurt going into the bye week, you had to stay around and you had to go to
The whole
treatment. They
time.
wanted to go home
Every day, maybe twice a day. You had to get treatment. Yeah, exactly. And you just want to get out. You don't want to be in that facility anymore during bye week. You want to get out and do your thing. So yeah, that's so true.
When we talk about the Texans, they're 1-11-1. They've lost a lot of games. They've had a weird season. Davis Mills looked like one of the best rookie quarterbacks last year. Now he does not look like a good quarterback. They're now running a 2-quarterback system. Again, weird. This isn't college football, but they're going to treat it like it. I'm Nick. We talked about you being on the Saints when they won the Super Bowl, being 12-0, losing the last 3. You've also been on teams that were not as good as the Saints during that Super Bowl season and were mathematically eliminated. If you're the Texans and like Texans players, how do you get up for this game? Like you got to be counting down the days until you can like leave, and like I don't know how you can get up for this one.
Well, you do. Well, it's easy because, you don't want to get, for one, you don't want to get embarrassed. And two, you're pissed off. You've had a crappy year. Things have not gone your way. And you kind of want to be spoiler. You kind of want to be like, say, F these guys, let's put a loss on them. Let's make their road a little bit more arduous. So, yeah, so you have pride. And then, like I said before, too, you're playing for next year. You're playing for, you might not be with Houston next year, but you're playing for 31 other teams. You're auditioning. So you want to put your best foot forward, which is why sometimes, might not play well as a team because you're playing individually, you're looking out for yourself, trying to get stats or whatever. So yeah, it's easy to get up for it. It's easy. The trickiest part will be Kansas City getting up for a noon game in Houston. I'm telling you, noon games are trap games, buddy, right?
You've been saying this.
Games. I'm telling you.
You said this before the Colts game this season, and it was definitely a trap game for the Chiefs. It played just a weird brand of football we hadn't seen the Chiefs ever play before. But
and who'd they tie? Who'd the Colts tie before that, right?
And the Texans.
That's right. Exactly.
Interesting.
So, AFC South.
Dude, the Chiefs play poorly against AFC South teams. They do. The Titans,
really do.
The Jags, the Colts, the Texans.
They got good defenses. They got like sneaky good defense. I think this Texans defense, they're like a top 5 defense, right? I mean, they're secondary at least, and they'll get after you on the defensive line. I mean, they really will. They're just not getting production. They're almost like Denver when you look at it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. Denver just has a semi-competent quarterback when it comes down to it. I think what's really interesting, you look at the injury report for these for the Texans. They're beat up, they're banged up. Derek Stingley, one of their top draft picks from I think last year or a year ago, I can't remember what draft he came out of. They all kind of run together. He's injured, not looking like he's going to play. They've got guys like all over that are beat up. I'll pull up the actual official injury report, so I'm not giving it to you off the top of the head. But like Brandon Cooks was back at practice.
Yep.
Nico Collins still not practicing. Guys on the offensive side of the ball, they're big offensive weapons, aren't playing. So it's like a lot of these guys too. It's just like they've got injury. They're not only are they bad, but they're also hurt. And again, Nick, I kind of want to bring this question to you. This is what BJ told us before that what his blind note was going to be. How do fans get up? How do fans care about this game? I know it's easy. We could talk about the player side of it. What am I supposed to care about, Nick? How am I supposed to care about this noon game against the Houston Texans?
That's so true. It's I don't know, man. You kind of want to see what the Chiefs can do differently, right? Yeah. And like I said, you got to look at the challenges, and the challenges are this is a good secondary. This is a really good secondary versus a really good Chiefs offense. So I think this will be sort of that playoff mentality where you're going against this good defense. And, you know, from a Chiefs defensive standpoint, that's where it's going to be tough to get up, because you're like, well, who do we do? Where's the catch here? Where's the Josh Allen, right? Where's the Higgins, right? Where's the Jamar Chase, right? Where's that sort of powerful sort of threat, you know? So it's like one of those things where you just don't yeah, it's tough as a fan. It's a blog game unless the Chiefs come out, lay an egg, and you're cursing and drinking at the TV at noon on a Sunday because the Chiefs have done it to you.
Yeah. Here's the final injury report. Pulled it up. Thank you to Matt McMullen for tweeting this out. Always on top of things. Kadarius Toney was the only one who was limited for the Chiefs. Hey, Chiefs could get back McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney in this game. Could be big. I talked a lot about that with Matt Hamilton on Thursday's KCSN update. Just talk about the lateral ability of those two guys and how that does help the offense. But you look at this, the Houston Texans laundry list of names here.
It's usually when teams are bad is when their injuries are chock full injuries, you know?
It's a lot easier.
A strong correlation. It's a strong correlation.
A lot easier to sit out a game when you're not winning them.
I'm hurt. I just let me just go on with this mid-grade ankle sprain for the next 5 weeks. Just put me on IR. I can't do it.
So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys not practice. Nico Collins being one of them, one of the receivers. Justin McCray, I think he's the offensive guard there. That could be a real disaster too when you start talking about a new offensive guard going into this lineup for the Texans. Chris Jones could have a day when you start thinking about a guy who hasn't had very many snaps there. Steven Nelson, friend of the program, friend of the show, did not practice in Thursday's practice. Damian Pierce, basically their whole offense, did not practice on Thursday.
Well, that's one of those things too where you're resting people. Yeah, I think I was in St. Louis in 2008, and we had like so many guys go on IR that I think they have like an emergency like cap, some provision or something, because it's almost like you couldn't sign, like someone got put on IR and you couldn't sign another guy because your cap was full because you had so much cap space on IR. It's crazy. Gosh. Yeah, it's wild.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
When you think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, they had Derek Stingley Jr. didn't practice. I mentioned that one. Taylor Stallworth, also, who was like just cut from the Chiefs. It feels like 15 minutes ago. Is now with the Texans and also on their injury report not practicing. So
hey, look, it's December. It's December. You know, you want to practice Wednesday, Thursday, but I always look at the availability on Fridays. You know, if you're available on Friday, like Fridays usually like we call them fast Fridays, right? You're moving quick. You're in like, you know, little spider pads. So if you can't go then you got issues. So the Wednesday, Thursday in December, not middle of December, not a big deal to miss. And if you're a vet, you're a vet. You know, you need that time. So they're resting Pierce because they know they're gonna feed him like 30 times on Sunday. Poor guy.
You have 65 carries.
Just meaningless carries. Just meaningless carries on 1-11 season. Just absolutely miserable. Yeah. Just
that can't be fun. Well, the Texans do have several. They have 3 guys actually that they put on their injury report as for rest, just as rest days. Jerry Hughes, Malik Collins, 2 defensive linemen that they kind of need to be rested and healthy if they're going to go up against this Chiefs front, and Mario Addison. Actually, 3 guys on the defensive line that they gave veteran rest days to on Wednesday. That's usually the day they do give the veteran rest days to. But
I like that. I like that a lot. I like the veteran rest day. That's a good one. That's a really good one too. I tell you what though, you know, when I was in St. Louis in 2008, we sucked. Like we won like 2 games all year. We won 2 games, but it's the most fun we had in the locker room. ever. Like
Yeah.
meetings are great because the coaches know they're getting fired. Everyone knows they're gonna fire sell the whole squad and do it to it. So it was lighthearted, like the pressure was off. And guess what? You get to play all noon games, baby. So you wake up, get that shit over with, and you're done for the day. There's some pros. You got to see glasses half full. It's like we suck. We're trying to win. You don't want us to lose. But you're like, oh, we get a noon game. We're at home, so I'll be drinking in Westheimer. By 3:00 this afternoon. Should be perfect on Sunday.
Be watching the 325 games from your couch. You'd be home in plenty of time. No, was that the year before Bradford? What was Bradford?
Yeah, Bradford. Yeah, we sucked and got Bradford. Yeah.
And then sucked after Bradford.
And then sucked after that. It was Spagnola. I think it was Spagnola. Spagnola was the head coach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yep, it would have been. No, that's funny. Oh, Chris Long was on that team. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Chris Long was our draft pick in 08.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great guy. From what I've seen.
Really good guy. Really mature rookie. Like really mature rookie. Yeah, you could tell his dad was a legend, right? And he was raised properly. And yeah, he was as a rookie, he was like a 6-year vet as a rookie. I'm like, damn, okay.
Wow.
There's other rookies were acting like, assholes and stuff like that. So yeah, he was good.
Played with a lot of I'm looking at this roster now. I don't know why we're going down this 08 Rams rabbit hole, but I'm looking at this roster.
It's a stacked roster.
There is Dante some Hall, guys on there.
Dante Hall, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Mark Bulger, Leonard Little. Leonard Little was a really good defensive end. Chris Long, David Vabora had a pretty good career at linebacker. OJ Atagwe, pretty good safety. Had a pretty good stretch there. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah. And then Richie Incognito.
Yeah, you had Richie Incognito, Orlando
Pace. Pace. Yeah.
That's a good right squad. Side of your line. That's a pretty good right side of the line right there.
It was a good squad. But like I said, injuries, man. Injuries decimated us. And then
have you listed on the reserve list?
I got put on IR. Yeah, I started the first 11 games. I got put on IR. I got hurt in warm-ups, for Christ's sakes. That tells you what kind of shitty year it was. I got hurt in warm-ups.
Have we talked about field turf?
No, we haven't.
I feel like I should talk about that with you because, I don't think the dome was necessarily the crown jewel of playing surfaces. NFL stadiums or playing surfaces.
No, it was not. It's about the size of my basement here. It was tiny. Exactly. I remember I first played there in 2004 in the Jones Dome, and it was AstroTurf, and it was them and Indy were the last two holdouts. And that was something else.
Playing on concrete, right?
Basically. But no, the field turf thing, it's wild. Like if there's a couple of guys got hurt, different teams, right, on some fields, that's some bullshit. But I played in Arizona for a couple of years, and that's pretty good. That's a pretty good, sod. It's grass. It's on the silverware drawer, right, where they pull it out to bake in the sun, and they push it into the easy bake oven on game day to let it go to get after it. That's what they do. We have not.
We haven't. I'm surprised we haven't dove into that with you because there's new turf out there. I don't know how much you've dove into this issue. I'm struggling with the tenses of dove and dive. I'm not sure how much you've dove into this issue, but there's a new turf out there called slit film turf.
What?
And it's like turf and a blade of grass. It has it's like mesh. So picture grass mesh basically. And the problem is that cleats are getting caught in it. And there's certain kind of cleats that dig more, obviously, and there's certain kind of cleats that don't dig in as much. And the cleats that obviously dig in more are causing ACL injuries, non-contact injuries, like the ones you saw in the Super Bowl from Odell Beckham was caused by the turf. One of those things, non-contact, and you see guys walking around that all of a sudden just hold their knee. So it's something that's it's being highly researched right now. But I think it's close to a third of the NFL fields right now have that slit film turf. So it's going to be a big investment if they are to change, a third of the fields. I don't think the NFL is going to be that willing to put forward that much money, right? Because as much as they love player safety, they love money more than player safety. That might be a shocker, but it's a really interesting issue. Yeah.
breaking. Well, I think what they're going to do, they'll probably let all the high schools in Texas do it first, and then NFL will copy off of that. So yeah. And I'm only half joking.
One of my favorite things about the NCAA, obviously another organization that loves money over player safety.
Oh man.
Arguably more than
bowl games over playoff systems. Yes.
Wild. But the NCAA Division II football national championship used to be played at Sporting Park. Used to be played.
Yeah, that was a good setup.
It was a great setup. Northwest played there a couple of times. I was able to go both times that they won the national championship. Very cool. Be in the stadiums cheering on the Cats. But then they moved it to McKinney, Texas, to play at McKinney High School. And that just shows you that the NCAA Division II says, you know what the best stadium we can play at for these Division II football players? It's a high school field down in Texas.
It says a lot. It says a lot. Who was it? I was one of my buddies played with a kicker, and it was like, "Oh, you made it to the NFL. Cool. Where are you from?" And he's like, "Kansas." And like, "Oh, cool. You're one of the few. Welcome."
Yeah. It's
wild. It's a religion down there, though, man. Like, I never realized how crazy it was, but I'll need to find it. But my actual high school transcript, has football on there twice.
That's incredible.
Twice. 2 classes, first period, 5th period. So every day we started out with football, right? Football in the morning, football in the afternoon. And this was the late 90s. This is not like now. This is the late 90s. This is 1996, 97, 98, 99. And we were doing special teams and film in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then afternoon, we do our regular practice, offense, defense.
Wow. We went down to the DFW area for the Big 12 championship. Obviously, it was in Arlington. It was at old Jerry's World, and there are some pretty big high schools around there. I was driving around, just like I think the DFW area is awesome. Like
it's
I
cool.
like it.
It's a great place. I'm from there. It's a great place.
And I was just kind of driving around trying to get a feel for it. I'd never been there before and that was the first time I was there. And I just saw some high schools that are just like, oh, that's a high school. That's not North Texas University of North Texas. Like, that's a high school.
Well, imagine me. I'm refereeing, like, I just finished year 2 of high school in Kansas refereeing, and I pull up to these stadiums, and I'm like, I'm like, is this the high school stadium? Like, this is not the high school stadium. Like, this is the high school stadium. Okay, it is. But you see what I'm used to. Yeah. Right? Where it's like,
different world, man.
We're getting there, though. We're getting there here in Kansas, Missouri. We are getting there. We are definitely. And the Chiefs help. I think, having a great football team, that helps youth sports and helps youth football. It really does.
And the Chiefs went out and built Lincoln Prep, who was a very good team in Missouri. They built them that new field, helped build them a new field. They got the blue turf. They got the Smurf turf out there for the Lincoln Prep. Yeah, they got the Lincoln Prep Tiger, the Blue Tigers, fighting Blue Tigers maybe, but I think they're the Blue Tigers. I played them in high school when they had Charles Harris, who was a defensive end on I think he plays for the Detroit Lions now. He might be.
Did they have you pull out at center to kick him out or what?
No, he played wide receiver then when we played him in high school. So, like, he went to Mizzou and they put on a bunch of weight, and now he's an NFL D end. So that just kind of tells you how far you can come from high school. Like that.
Wide receivers, running backs, they make really good D ends. Look at Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons. He had, he was catching routes in high school.
Incredible.
That dude's a freak. He's an absolute freak. He really is, man. He really is. So where do you see, let's go back to Kansas City versus Seattle versus Denver at Vegas. Where's the loss in there? There's got to be one loss. You think they're going to?
If I have to say that there's a loss, if that's what you're saying,
you have to say there's a loss.
I could see them getting got maybe in Vegas. Road game. See, no, I'm walking myself back from that because that's going to be week 18. If they go into the Vegas game winning all, like beating the Texans, beating the Broncos, beating the Seahawks, if they're 3-0 going into that game, and it's going to be hard because they really have to be 2 games up on the Bills for that AFC because the Bills have the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
And if it's anywhere close, like if they're a game up, I think they don't get got there, right? I don't think I do think it's going to depend on what the Bills do. The Seahawks, despite their performance on Thursday night, I think are a good football team. I'm more impressed as the year goes on by the Chiefs win over the 49ers and how they kind of make the 49ers look like a peewee squad. They look like a Pop Warner team. I think
they were missing a lot of though. That was not the real.
That's fair.
And it was McCaffrey's first week, right?
Yep.
So they really hadn't figured it out yet. And then did Jimmy G get hurt, right? So Jimmy G, right? Not even.
No,
he was playing. He was there.
I think Jimmy G was still playing, and Jimmy G was fully healthy. George Kittle was fully healthy. They did get some of their guys back, because I remember there was a few guys on the injury report that they did get back. But you're right; they probably weren't as full strength as
they're not. They were
now.
not. They were a tiger with like half its jaw missing. Like they were not the Niners who are like the Bosa McDonald, like those guys who are just absolute demons on the field, man. Like that's
I think Bosa left that game early too, if I remember correctly.
I could see that, but yeah. So it was like, that you have to put that one to the side. You can't put that in the official stat book because that's not the same Niners team that's right now. That was
I'm curious too, just like with the NFC and everything like that. I don't think the NFC is obviously not as good as the AFC. You're gonna see a team that is under 500 make the playoffs for the NFC. I'm sure of it. Whether it's the winner of the NFC South is probably going to be under 500 because all those teams kind of stink.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really good question about where the loss comes, and if they do get a loss, I wouldn't be shocked if the Broncos get them. Honestly. I know they haven't lost to the Broncos in 14 straight times now, but like that game's at home though, and so like that's the thing is that like you look at a lot of these games, it's very favorable for the Chiefs. A lot of these matchups are very favorable.
It's too perfect because, like I said, you get Seattle in Kansas City, like different story. If you got to go play up in Seattle, that's like Arrowhead. That's a tough place to play. It's a super tough place to play. So it's like, so you get them, late in the season, and then but the divisional ones, man, those are fluky, man. And you know what? The bummer part, even if you make it through unscathed, they're going to expose some late weaknesses because divisional opponents, each other really, really well. So you're gonna put some shit on tape where teams are gonna see that and they're going, okay, we can exploit this. Let's see what Denver did right here when they're pass rushing, or how they would load up three guys over the right guard tackle and like outside and rush one. So they're gonna be some stuff where I'm like, okay, you better stop this because it could cause trouble in playoffs.
Absolutely, and we talked about. I had the schedule pulled up. It was that loss to the Titans I was thinking of in 2019 where they lost to the Titans in week 10 and they didn't lose again. But I guess one of those losses where like, oh, that kind of wakes you up a little bit. And I think that Chiefs loss to the Bengals could kind of serve as that, right? As a little wake-up call, but definitely playing a team close coming off of an emotional loss to the Bengals. Then they had to go to a divisional game that could have been easily looked over. Didn't play a full 60. Hey, the next time the Chiefs play a full 60 minutes of football will be the first time they play a full 60 minutes of football.
Exactly. I was like, you better say what I'm going to think you're going to say.
Exactly. A lot of people are like, if they play full, that doesn't happen. You don't. I'm convinced that you don't play a full. You can't play a full 60. Like it's just not one of those things that's really achievable.
I don't think you can, just because teams are good. There's going to be some sort of elasticity, some sort of clawback that they're going to want to get after. They're not going to let you just steamroll them. And I don't think the Chiefs. When's the last time Chiefs are just blowing somebody out? And was it San Francisco?
Ooh.
Was it San Francisco?
Probably. I'll pull up their game logs.
It was a toothless San Francisco. But they're not like Kansas City is not blowing out squads. Maybe Tampa when they lost him.
Yeah, they did. They did beat Tampa pretty good this year. What do you consider a blowout, though? That's a conversation I have with my friends a lot. It's like 2 scores or like 3 scores. Is 3 scores a blowout?
At any point where you're kind of like it's like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter and you're really not that on edge. You're like, this is not. We're like we're good. By the way, my father-in-law totally jinxed that game, the Denver game, because he was like, all right, well, when are they going to pull Mahomes? And I'm like, oh, buddy, it's second quarter. Like, no, there's plenty of game left.
BJ was tweeting that out. BJ said, let's get Chad Henne on in here. And I think it was after the Willie Gay interception. He's like, Chad Henne time. That's like,
by the way, all time play. I mean, he gets the deflection, he gets the pick, and the stiff arm into the dirt, like Mortal Kombat fatality, finish him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was nasty. That was
Willie Gay. He said that like he was supposed to blitz on that, and he adjusted, like he recognized what was happening, and he like fell back because he knew the guy was in the flat behind him. I don't know if you see that play, you can go watch it on the defensive breakdown that's up on our YouTube channel. But they highlight this with Derek Johnson. L'Jarius Sneed cleans that dude out, the wide receiver that was supposed to catch the ball.
I love that.
He buries him.
Best rule ever is when you see the referee do this motion. Do the Magic City on a Monday motion. Then you could just. It's funny because it turns into like, hey, guess what? We're not calling PI. Yep. Like we're just like we're the substitute teacher. We're gonna close we're gonna turn the light off. We're gonna leave the room. You guys figure it out on a tip ball. That's why like on a tip ball. Like it's like tip balls. I feel like you should clean up more people. Like and I love that. Absolutely. Like when you know the rule and it's like tip ball. Okay, cool. You're fair game. Boom. I'm gonna blast you. Like it's a cool thing. It's a cool concept.
The Niners game was a blowout. It was 44-23.
Yeah.
That's probably the last time that I've been like, wow, this Chiefs team played a full 60 minutes of football. But even then, you don't really play a full 60 minutes because you're kneeing the running the ball, stuff like that. But before we go, Nick, I do got to give you my blind note. I haven't given you my blind note.
That's right.
We were just going with the flow. We were just taking where the breeze took us. My blind nil. I want to know what you need to see this week from the Chiefs that'll make you feel better about them going into the playoffs. Granted, there's still 4 games left, counting this one. But what's one thing that you'd like to see the Chiefs do this week that'll make you feel a whole lot better down the stretch here?
Somebody not named Travis or Juju have a huge game. That to me was like, I think they lean too heavily on, Patrick making plays. So I would like to see Mahomes have maybe 1 or 2 TD passes. And I like to see 3 or 4 actual like rushing plays, like rushing touchdowns. And that would make me happy because that would make them, sort of multidimensional where, I mean, if I'm playing this Chiefs team in the playoffs, I'm saying, okay, beat us with someone other than Juju and Travis, right? MVS do your thing, McKinnon do your thing, Pacheco do your thing, which I'm seeing some bright spots from them. But and this is going to sound weird coming from me, I'd like to see McKinnon or Pacheco have 10 receptions. Oh. Because I'm telling you, man, they can easily they both can catch the ball nice. So between them, have a combined, let's say, eight receptions. That's what I would like to see. I would like to see them win differently, like win not with Travis, win not with Juju. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense.
Right.
And I think go ahead.
No, and I'm saying because teams will key in on that, especially in the red zone. Like, don't. Like, we know who you're gonna get though, too, Patrick. Like, don't. You're not fooling anybody.
It is good that like teams know that Travis Kelce's going to get the ball in the red zone, and he still had 4 touchdown passes in the red zone against the Raiders.
Don't understand it.
Guard hit, like put 2 guys on him. You know that play where Travis or where Patrick took that absolute hit on that Juju touchdown. Uh-huh. If you watch that play back, Travis Kelce has like 3 guys on him in the red zone. Like that's a zone play. Like they're running zone there, but like the 3 zone guys are like, all right, Travis Kelce's right here. We're not gonna.
We know where you want to go. We know where you want to go exactly. And Mahomes tried to force it.
Yeah, but
that's the good thing about the Denver game too is that you can't force balls to Travis because they are keying in on that. So like I said, win differently. That's what I want to see versus Houston. Figure out a different way. Create a new film study for every team going forward and into the playoffs. Okay, shit, look, they're not throwing it to Travis in the red zone right here. We got to count for other stuff because guess what? Then you get into playoffs, that opens Travis back up. Some weird.
Like,
it's a weird circle.
It's a 4D chess move to like, all right, we're gonna leave the horse that got us here, and we're gonna walk a little bit, but then we're just gonna get right back on the horse that got us here.
First chance we get. Exactly. Or my boy is gonna get his 2 more touchdowns for my call. What's his face?
Jody?
Jody.
Red zone Jody, baby.
Jody high roller, riffraff.
He's been getting some targets outside the red zone. Yeah. He's been getting some real run in that 3 tight end set that they've been running, the 13 personnel, where they'll bunch the tight ends on one side. I don't know if you saw this.
Scary formation. It's a scary formation. If I'm a safety, I'm like, damn it. There's a lot of meat over here. Like a lot of.
They sent him in jet motion one time.
Really?
They sent Jody in jet motion. It was the Travis Kelce touchdown against the Rams where he made Jalen Ramsey look like an absolute fool. On that play, Jody goes in motion, jet motion.
Sprint.
He has, sprint motion. I think he runs a wheel off of it too. So it's like insane if you go ahead and hit that. And then Noah Gray was running like the fake tunnel, they do with Travis Kelce, that little tunnel type route. He was running that off of it, and I think Travis was just running like an under route. But like still, how are you going to defend that? Like that's a look that they have to put on, that you have to be like, all right, if they come out in a 13 personnel bunch, we got to figure something out here.
It's cool.
These guys? Yeah.
It's a cool mismatch. It's like I said before, and I'm always like, by the way, I'm always nervous to say this. It's like when the Patriots had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk, right? I mean, you got some guys. You got some guys, some football players, some really, really good athletes on the field who create the ultimate mismatch, right? Where you could cover one, you could put one in, but you put 2 in, you put 3 in, and those are 3 big tight ends. And it's like, who can catch and block and who will sell out for each other. I like that. Call it the dream package.
I like that too. I want to see the Chiefs. I really like your idea of winning differently. I think that's really good in the concept of having teams having to scout things that you're not going to really you're not going to do in the playoffs, but like to have teams have to scout it, because like if you roll it out again and they're not prepared for it, like they're obviously going to run it, but like they have to scout it. So like making teams do the extra work is good. Like I think that's just like such a 4D chess and Andy Reid type move. We see him not run things in the red zone just because of that, because he doesn't want to put things on tape and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's good. I think what I really want to see is this defensive line isn't necessarily the toughest defensive line that they're going to face all year. It's not going to be the worst defensive line they face all year either. So I want to see the Chiefs kind of handle them up front offensively, the tackle specifically. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes getting no sacks. I don't want to see any turnovers. No turnover challenge. I think Matty Lane said that on the Casey Lab. They were doing a pregame show. Their game preview. There we go. I couldn't think of the word. Their game preview. So he said no turnovers. I'm with that. I just want to see the Chiefs play clean football. That's what I want to see that happen.
And it'll be a battle. This is a good defense. Despite the record, this is a good defense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I like that. No turnovers, win differently. Ready? Break.
Perfect. All they had to do was listen into this podcast to figure out what they had to do this week. Glad we solved all the problems.
Yeah, you are welcome, City Chiefs.
Yeah, because we know that they're listening, and thank you for listening all the way to the end of this podcast. Nick, any final thoughts? On the people?
No. I'm just curious. Hit me up on Twitter to see what you're drinking. Sunday at noon versus Houston. It's on the road, so we don't get the pleasure of knowing our friends are Arrowhead, right? So it's like they're in Houston at Reliant or whatever stadium it's called now.
Corporate.
Yeah,
I think it's what it's called now.
Yeah, it's not a crypto name. That's got to get. Let's take that off. That was fun, but COVID's over. No more crypto.
It's fun while it lasted. Just like this podcast, Nick. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Outside the Trenches. Thank you to Fly Farms Irish Cream for sponsoring this fine podcast, this fine establishment of a program. Thank you very much for listening all the way to the end. We will be back next week to talk all kinds of stuff. Who knows what we're going to talk about next week, because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming from this Chiefs and Texans game. I'm sure there will be. I'm sure there'll be things that we need to talk about. So until then, We'll talk to you guys next week.